I am grateful to have the opportunity to join with you in worship today and share a few words about Presbyterian disaster assistance, but I'm just curious, do you normally have church when it's this cold? I spent 30 years in Southwest Florida, so I just need to check that out. Well, my name is Jim Kirk, and I'm the Associate for Disaster Response in the U.S. And I've been a volunteer with PDA for about 20 years prior to coming into this position in August of 2016. And I'd like to have the thoughts kind of revolve around what we're doing in worship, which is Advent. And as you know, we're well over halfway through the Advent season. And First Presbyterian, South St. Paul, as churches around the world, has an Advent wreath and candles in their sanctuary. And each of the candles, as you know, represents something meaningful and important about the Christian journey. And today we found out that the candle symbolizes joy. And you heard the lectionary passage that goes along with that from Psalm 126, which reads, "When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. When our mouths were filled with laughter and our tongues with shouts of joy." What a wonderful, beautiful message that is. But I'd like to share a different word, and I'm not sure what the tradition is here, but one of the candles typically symbolizes love. And love comes with both an affirmation and an exhortation. The affirmation is this, that God so loved the world that he sent his only Son. But there's an exhortation in this as well, and that's where PDA and we get into the picture. The exhortation is that we who are God's children are called to love one another as Jesus has loved us. And your denominational disaster program is a ministry of love. The PCUSA, your denomination, really you, have set the mandate for the mission of PDA, which is to enable congregations of the PCUSA to witness to the healing love of Christ through caring for communities adversely affected by crisis and catastrophic events. You may have already sung the powerful Advent hymn, O Come, Emmanuel. You know that the word Emmanuel means God with us. And we declare from our theology that Jesus is the Word of God incarnate. Jesus is the Word of God right here present among us. And I believe that PDA is an amazing example of making the love of God incarnate. Making the love of God tangible and visible to people, let's say Texas, who dealt with more water than they ever imagined. Or the people in Florida, from north, south, east, west in Florida, people were under hurricane watches and warnings and tornado warnings and flooding. And then people in Puerto Rico. Most of the country, sorry about that, most of the island, which is a territory of our country, is still without power, and many still without water. And although power was out across the island, I didn't hear of one Presbyterian church that missed worship that first Sunday after Maria hit. People of God came together and worshiped God even in the midst of the storm. Well, PDA is an example, an amazing example of how the love of God can be made tangible and can be incarnate. But who is PDA? And that's where you get in. I am PDA. I work for our national headquarters, serving as the Associate for Disaster Response. My colleagues in Louisville are PDA, as they work for the denomination. We have 100 national volunteers who go out in your name. In fact, there are 4 of them today that will be worshiping in churches in Santa Barbara Presbyterian as they deal with what is now the 3rd largest wildfire in California. But you see, PDA is so much bigger. If you have ever given a donation to the One Great Hour of Sharing offering that's taken up during Lent, you are PDA. If you have given any money to the special appeals that have come out through the years, including the 2 that came out for the hurricane season of 17, you are PDA. If you've ever gone on a mission trip and stayed at one of the Presbyterian host sites, guess what? You are PDA. And if you follow and honor the wishes of your church leadership and participate in the challenge gift this Christmas season, the proceeds of which will go to PDA, guess what? You are PDA. We are very much in this together. And you are doing amazing work. You have been called angels around the denomination. You have been called saints. You have been called the Word of God incarnate for people who are suffering in so many different ways. Through your engagement in Presbyterian disaster assistance, you continue the miracle of Christmas. The miracle that God is very much present. God is very much working in the world. God is about healing the nations. I recently came across a quote from John E. Lewis. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? If we who bear the name of Christ do not witness to the presence of God, then who will? I think PDA is one of the denominational resources that help you fulfill your mission statement on your sign out there, equipping the saints for the work of ministry. PDA is an equipping entity that helps people get involved in the work of ministry. Let me share some final words about what has been called an unprecedented hurricane season. A lot of people along the Gulf states, Florida, the islands would have loved to live in Minnesota during this last season. But in a nutshell, since August the 25th, when Hurricane Harvey made landfall, PDA has sent, well, let me ask, maybe some of you are familiar with the number. How many volunteers who are part of our national response team do you think PDA has sent out for these 3 hurricanes?
83.
83, good. I am impressed. That's the exact number. We sent out 83 national response team members to go into Texas and to Florida and Puerto Rico. Now I know I may be pressing my luck, but if you take those 83 people and you count the number of days that they were in the field, how many collective days were they deployed for PDA?
630.
No way. 630. You're absolutely right. Collectively, those 83 people spent 630 days in the field offering ministry of presence, encouragement, hope, and support. Now, I know nobody's going to be able to answer this one. Wink, wink. How many dollars has PDA been able to grant to presbyteries in Texas and Florida and Puerto Rico in response to these 3 hurricanes?
509,000. $500,000.
Wow, 509,000? That's pretty specific, and you're absolutely right, Sue. $509,000 because of you have been able to go out to help communities, churches, people who were impacted by these storms. A lot of churches are doing what you're doing. They're using the Christmas season to designate the gift of PDA. So you need to know that that's the money that's gone out so far, but with your generous gifts, we will be able to stay engaged in the disaster response for at least 3 years. So know that when you gather next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, your dollars are still going to help people not just rebuild a house, but truly to rebuild a home. And I think that brings joy to my heart. So thank you for what you've done and for your generosity. Let me finish with a paraphrase of a well-known quote, and I leave you with this. And I will be out in the narthex. If you have any other questions that you would like to ask, please do. Would love for you to become more familiar with PDA because, hey, you are PDA. For God so loves the world that God sends the beloved children of the First Presbyterian Church of South St. Paul, Minnesota, so that those impacted by disasters can experience the healing love of Christ. Amen.